Rapport is, if you really want to define it,
People are actually operating a business and they don't actually have.
the Mindset Channel, episode number 4. Over to you, Jono.
All right, welcome back to the Mindset Channel, where we combine ancient wisdom with modern strategies to help you unlock your full potential. Now, today, Crom and I are going to be diving into something powerful, something that I spend an enormous amount of my time working with. Obviously, as a lot of you will know by now, I am a combination of a strategic psychotherapist, a mindset coach, a clinical hypnotherapist, and an NLP master practitioner. Now, there's an enormous crossover between NLP and hypnotherapy, and we'll get to that in a moment. And there's an enormous crossover between NLP and mindset as well, which we'll get to in a moment. Okay, now think of NLP as a toolkit for shaping your mindset. Okay, it helps you change your thoughts, your thought patterns, your behaviors, and how you experience the world around you and how you respond to the world around you. But we'll get to that in a little bit more in a little while.
Yes, that's the thing about NLP. By the way, NLP means Neuro-Linguistic Programming.
That is important to know.
Yes, Be Grinder and Bandler didn't know what to call it, right? And I think I wasn't sure if it is Bandler or Grinder, who is also a program, as in they can code.
Yeah, that was Bandler was the mathematician and programmer. Say linguist.
Yes,
He studied
right.
the language. Yeah.
And because of that, for the lack of a better word, they called the last part of NLP programming. Funny though, they didn't like that name, right? But if you look at nowadays, all over the internet, you can hear the term being used now. Oh, you've been programmed since childhood, or the
Right.
programming of these people. It also spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So and that's what I like about this. NLP. All right. I think 2012 is when I discovered NLP accidentally. I've been trying to learn it. I learned it then. I finally got my master's on it in 2018. Yes,
Yeah.
in 2018. So it took me 6 years to practice it, make sense of it, because to be honest, NLP language is weird.
And you never stop practicing. You know, both
Mm.
of us are masters of NLP, but I'm still practicing. I'm still learning every day.
Yes, correct. I'm a business consultant. I am a marketer. If you ask me what's getting me paid, is it will be marketing, right?
Yep.
And if I may say so as well, I'm one of the pioneers of digital marketing in Sydney, right? When it wasn't a thing, we were already doing digital marketing or online marketing or internet marketing. My marketing career was all right. And then I discovered NLP. I fixed my mindset, but also the neuro-linguistic part of it. And when I used it in copywriting, my copy got better. More people
Yep.
resonated to it. And in this video, guys, so let's get started with this one. That's the basic part of NLP. So what is NLP? It's neuro-linguistic programming. And Bandler, or Richard Bandler and John Grinder, they asked a big question. What if we could understand and model the best, or the way the most effective communicators think and behave? So they studied Perls, or Fritz Perls, a Gestalt therapist. A Gestalt is the idea where you can get all the emotions or all the memories to back up an emotion. That's a Gestalt, right?
Yeah,
And
it is
Brigitte,
also very much about personal accountability and existing in your behavior in the moment.
correct. Yeah, yeah. So Virginia Satter is a family therapist. I'm not sure if she's a nurse, but apparently she was.
Yeah, I'm not
Also,
sure.
I'm not sure. There was a lot of stories that she was a nurse and she became a family therapist. And the great Milton Erickson, arguably the man that took the practice of hypnosis from the stage or some dodgy thing, added it into the sciences as a therapeutic way of helping people out.
He took it from in the back dark rooms into
Mm,
being genuinely incredibly effective
mm.
therapy tool for you to be used in emotive therapy.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Imagine going to a psychologist for 15 years and then you get a breakthrough. And then you go
Yeah,
to hypnotherapy, same process. So same idea, but the process is better because you're using hypnosis, right?
yeah.
So that's what Milton Erickson is about. So Bandler and Grinder studied pearls, Satir, and Erickson, and then they created NLP.
Yeah, which is a set of tools that anyone can use to
Yeah.
become effective. Now, it essentially teaches us how to manage our internal states, okay? Stay flexible, which is incredibly important, especially during times when you're under stress. The problem is when people are stressed, they end up, they start to limit their thinking and therefore limit the ways they can actually respond to a situation, okay? And they become ineffective. Now, a great example of this was back in, I think it was the early 80s. It was Bandler, and everyone's heard of Tony Robbins, probably the
The
most
most
well
famous one. Yeah.
NLP exponent, which a lot of people don't realize that that's actually what Tony Robbins does. He has taken NLP and he's turned it into a massive show.
Yeah.
Okay. That's essentially what he does. And he really does help people, which is fantastic as well. But a great example of how NLP is effective. So I think it was the early 80s or it was the late 70s. Bandler and Tony Robbins were hired by the US government, it was the military, to address the US Army's Sharpshooter program. Okay.
Mm.
And so what happened? The program was at that time, it was a 4 week, the initial stage of it was 4 weeks, and it had an 80% washout rate. Okay.
Which means only 20% pass.
Only 20% passed. Okay.
Mm.
And which is okay, it means it's a tough course. That's fine. It's also really ineffective and really expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, to do things that way. So they got Bandler and Tony Robbins in to have a look at it. And what they did, they said, okay, give us your five very best sharpshooters. And they sat down with those guys and modeled what they do. And they weren't just modeling technique, although that was a component of it. What they did was model everything else that was going on as well. What are you looking at? What are you
Mm.
thinking about? What are you doing before you take a shot? What are you doing as you take a shot? What are you thinking after you take a shot? What are you thinking if you miss a shot? Okay. When you visualize things, how are you visualizing them? All these other components to form what these top five guys were actually doing. And in doing that, they actually managed to reduce the course down to 2 weeks.
Mm.
Instead of an 80% failure rate, they took it to an 80% pass rate. And that wasn't by
Wow.
dropping the standards in any way. That was just by training them on things other than just their technique, essentially training their mindset.
Mm. I love stories like that.
Yep.
All right. What are the core pillars of NLP? So the first, we can break this down into rapport, sensory awareness, outcome thinking, and behavioral flexibility. Let's start with rapport. Jono, you're the master hypnotherapist. How important is rapport?
Rapport is everything, okay? In every aspect of life, but certainly when you are trying to help someone that I do in a therapeutic way as well, building a level of rapport is enormous. Now, it's interesting to note here that most people's introduction to NLP is a lot of the people anyway, when they're in a business sense and they're being taught how to sell. And what they'll get is a really cheap and nasty version of NLP. And they'll get taught things. This is how you create rapport. And it's real scratch the surface stuff. Okay. And they think that's what NLP is, but it's not.
Can you
That's
give us an
just,
example of that cheeky, cheap, shallow version of rapport?
simple things, which are effective. Don't get me wrong, but simply mirroring someone's language.
Yeah.
Okay. getting someone to say yes 3 times and they're likely to say yes the fourth time. All these
Mm,
sorts of things. But building rapport goes much deeper than that. Okay. It's in being able to communicate to a person in a way that they understand and they comprehend. So it's, in a lot of ways, you're meeting them at their bus stop. You're not trying to sound overly clever. You're working out how they operate and meeting them at their bus stop. It can even come down to very simple things that people pick up. A lot of it is non-verbal as well. You're
mm.
talking to someone and you actually start breathing in sync with them, they're more likely to feel connected with you. It's a very subtle thing that they don't even know they're doing. Okay. Yeah, so essentially that's what rapport is. It's communicating to a person in a way that is effective for them.
Yeah.
Okay? You're
Oh,
not trying to make yourself look clever. You're communicating in a way that's effective so the communication works.
rapport is, if you really want to define that, is being like someone.
Creating a connection.
Yeah, the way it was explained to me is rapport is you are like someone. That's why mirroring is there.
Mm,
Mirroring and reflecting all that stuff is there.
yeah.
The other one is you tapped on having the same breathing, for example,
Yeah.
to calm them down. So this is a use of rapport building. So when your friend or your coworker is frazzled because they're, oh my God, I'm stressed, don't tell them to calm down.
Oh no, that's like telling a starving person to stop being hungry.
That's hilarious. I join them and build rapport and them on that level,
Yeah.
and then lead them to a level or a state of mind that is
No, that's the
probably,
concept of match, pace, and lead, which we could spend.
yes,
Again,
correct.
we could one of those things we could spend a whole episode on. But it's
Yes.
very simple things. If you got someone that talks quietly, talk quietly with them.
Yeah.
You got someone
Yeah.
that talk loud with them.
Yeah.
You got someone that uses colourful language, you can use colourful language. If someone's
Mm.
very well spoken, be well spoken.
Yeah. Yeah.
All those simple things.
Now, let's talk about sensory awareness.
Sensory
Yep.
awareness.
Yep.
It's just about being highly aware of the information you're taking through your senses, okay? What you see, what you hear, what you feel in your environment. Essentially, all these things become subtle cues. So if you notice in a certain situation where you feel resourceful, for example,
Stop. What is resourceful for those who don't know what that is?
a resourceful state is you in kind of your peak state when you're thinking clearly, when you feel you have options, where things are flowing, where you feel like you can get to your goals. Okay. When people are under duress or stress of some sort, they kind of often lose that resourceful state. Okay. And
Correct.
they run out of options. Okay. What it is essentially being aware of all these sensory cues around you when you're in that resourceful state and bringing them to mind in any situation. And as you bring those things into mind, as you're under a bit of duress, you can remain resourceful. And that we could bring up, we could have a discussion about essentially anchoring and things like that at this point, which again, you could spend an entire episode on. But you can anchor yourself to your resource state by being aware of, in that resource state, these are the things I hear, these are the things I notice, these are the things I think about. Okay.
Nice. How about the outcome thinking?
Yeah.
In NLP, having a clear goal, knowing exactly what you want to achieve is critical. Yes, we take this very, it seems like in the business world nowadays, it's common. Okay,
Yeah.
what's our objective? What's our goal? Remember, before the 70s, no one really did this. They wanted to do something, they want to make $1 million. That's pretty much it.
Mm.
But there's no, okay, this is the outcome. In my team, when I speak to my team, I want them to work this level. That's the outcome. Back then,
Yeah.
they that didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
I would still say a lot of businesses, especially the small businesses, don't have this kind of mentality.
I do a lot of business coaching and management coaching as well. And you'd be astounded how many people are actually operating a business and they don't actually have the outcome in mind. And
Mm,
one of the things that they're missing, they don't actually have their end outcome in mind. And so they're sort of reacting to the day as things go without having the outcome in mind. So they don't have the clear steps of how to get there. And that's why that outcome oriented thinking is so important. Okay.
Yeah.
It very much ties in actually with something you've heard me say before, and I think my clients get tired of hearing me say, okay, is I often explain that difference between the moving away from motivational strategy, which is limited in its effectiveness, as opposed to the moving towards motivational strategy. And the moving towards motivational strategy is very much in sync with this outcome thinking.
With goals, is that an outcome or is that just a goal?
Well, I think the goals get you to the outcome.
Mm.
If you're looking at it in a business sense, for example, I guess just to make something up on the top of my head right now, if your outcome is to make $100 million, the goals need to be build a revenue stream, build your marketing, attract the right clients, keep the right clients, all those sorts of things, convert the right amount of people, all those sort of things. And they're your goals that lead you to your outcome.
Nice.
Yeah,
And in NLP, that's necessary, or that's one of the key components of it. Yeah.
absolutely it is. Absolutely
Yep.
it is.
How about behavior flexibility? What does that mean, Jono?
Ability to adapt your behavior on the fly when needed and having that flexible mindset to be able to do so. And so it's not sort of pig-headedly driven by ego saying, no, this is the way I'm doing it. It has implications in business, in social life, in relationships, in every aspect of your life. That behavioral flexibility is huge. And you could argue, with that old comment of that theory of the survival of the fittest, isn't necessarily true. It's the survival of the most flexible, the most
I agree. I agree.
most adaptable.
I think Darwin said two versions of that one. One is the survival of the fittest, and the other one is the survival of the ones that can adapt the most.
Exactly it.
Yeah, yeah.
In sort of most people's understanding, that comment, the survival of the fittest, is all that stands out. That's the
Mm,
one that one recalls, but that's part of it. But it's the survival of the most adaptable. That is the most important thing. And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what that behavioral flexibility comes down to.
Behavior flexibility. Now that's a mindset. If you
That is,
can, a mindset on itself.
absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Yeah,
A,
absolutely
a
it is.
lot of people only has guys. I'm about to talk about the psyche. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the one of our videos about the psyche and
That was the one last week.
the
Yeah.
one that's the one last week. Okay. Part of the behaviors that we display, I believe anyway, in our conscious mind, as in conscious, not unconscious, conscious mind, we have the ego controlling and then the persona as a mask.
Yeah.
And that's what's being presented in environment, specifically to each individual social situation,
Exactly right. Yeah.
right? The problem is when we believe the mask, when we believe that persona is the only one we have. So you start treating your parents, your partner like your employees, or vice versa. You started treating your employees like your mates, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's now behavior is no longer flexible. So that's what we're talking about in this one.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a mindset in itself to give yourself a chance to go, all right, I'm now in this situation. I'm no longer the boss. I'm no longer the manager. I'm talking to my mom, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Now I should stop giving her KPIs, right? So,
Yeah. It's exactly right. It's the mistake people do. They forget to leave their persona at work,
yeah,
or they forget to leave their persona at home.
yeah,
Uh, you have to put that different mask on, as you put it, in different situations.
correct. And that is the behavior flexibility.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is a mouthful. The next one,
Suppositions.
presuppositions. Okay, Jono,
Okay.
what are presuppositions in NLP?
So this is really important, and this is the first one we're going to get to in a moment is hugely important. Okay. And a bit of a mind blower when people actually understand it for the first time. When I explain this to people in a therapeutics, I often get this look of amazement. They're like, how didn't I know that? When I explain it, I can really see the bulb go off. Okay. But
Mm.
presuppositions in general are the beliefs underlying the system. Now, they're not necessarily hard facts.
Mm.
Using the presuppositions provides really useful and effective outcomes. Yeah.
Guys, presuppositions. When you say I suppose, that's a supposition. Yeah, you suppose before you even look at the facts, you suppose to do this, or I suppose that this should happen. The word should is almost like a presupposition word, something that starts it.
We'll go through the presuppositions here. We'll do some of them quickly. This first one we'll get into a bit of detail on because it's incredibly important. And so I'll have to explain what this means. So this presupposition is that the map is not the territory. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, what does that actually mean? So simple visual way to get it in your mind, I'll explain it a couple of ways, is if you stand outside your street and look down your street, okay, that's real. That's the real world. Okay,
Yeah.
you got all the detail there. If you stand there and look at Google Maps in your hand on your phone, that's the map. Okay, it's not the actual territory, it's the map. Okay, now, so essentially what happens, and this is why I created that little visual now. So in any given moment, okay, your brain has around about 2 million bits of information that it can take in sights, sounds, internal thoughts, whatever, tactile senses, whatever's actually going on in the moment, okay? About 2 million bits of information. Now, your mind can't handle 2 million bits of information, okay? So we'll look at the territory, as I called it. Let's look at that as, say, a basketball. That's reality. Okay, the territory is reality. That's the 2 million bits of information. That's the basketball. We can't possibly process all of that. So what the mind does, it deletes, distorts, and generalizes information based on things we already know. All men are this, all women are this, all salespeople are this. Okay, all these generalizations, okay? And in doing that, it boils it down to about the 7% of that 2 million bits of information that we can actually process. Okay. So if reality is the basketball, what we can actually process is a golf ball, something like that. Okay. And that's the map. Now, when we respond to a situation, we're actually responding to the map that we've created. We're not necessarily responding to the reality. We're responding to our own individual map of reality based on our deletions, distortions, and generalizations. Okay.
Yeah.
So the good thing about that is because you created the map, if it's not working for you, you can change the map.
Yeah.
It's essentially an internal representation based on your experience. Okay, that continues on, but you can change the content. Now, a really good example of that, okay, is when I deal with someone that's suffering from panic disorder or just has panic attacks, okay, I don't sort of look at that as being it's not great and it's really unpleasant, but it's also indicative of an enormous amount of resource. So that person having a panic attack has an amazing ability to create a scenario in their mind. They start to get, their heart starts to go and they go, oh no, here we go. And it's just their heart beating faster, but they take it to the next level. Okay.
Mm.
So they have an amazing ability to take just that physical action, sweaty palms, whatever it happens to be, and take it to the next level. Okay. So this plus this must equal this. And that's when they go into complete panic. Okay. So they've got an ability to create a mental and physical state based on their map. Now, if you can take those skills and change the content, they can use those skills of creating that scenario for a far more positive result. Okay. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to some of the words that you said. When we say 2 million bits per
That's what's
scene,
actually there.
yeah, it's there. Yeah. However, the conscious mind only picks up, or your senses picks up. You got five: visual, olfactory, which is your smell; tactile, which is what you
Touch.
feel; your taste as well;
Yep.
and what you can hear.
Yes.
Right. So I love using this example. Can you see me, guys? I'm being silly
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So all your senses are here, really, in this frame.
Yeah, that's it
Touch,
right there.
that's it. That's it, right? And I would say a lot of people, not majority, maybe a lot of people will believe what they see, but they will not use their auditory. I'll give you an example. How many people have you heard that said, she gave me the look? She must hate me, right?
Yeah.
The next question is, what did she say? Did she touch you? Did she give you a drink or took away your drink? I don't know. Like, what else did you observe? So that is, those are the five modalities or the five senses. That's how we take in. And Jono said it's 7%. That's what we can take in.
Roughly 7%. Yeah.
Yeah. But imagine out of that 7%, how how many percent were we aware of, right? Or we actually noticed, or we actually observed?
Yeah.
Probably way less than 7%.
Oh, it's less than the 7%. Absolutely. I didn't know how to put a number on that, but yeah, you're
Yeah,
absolutely right. It's a really good point.
yeah. Now, one of them is deletion. Right? Deletion. I'll give you an example of a deletion. Okay. Sometimes, can you see my glasses? Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do this, and I'll go. Has anybody seen my glasses? Right?
Yeah.
Has anybody? Because that information was literally deleted
Yeah.
by my mind, right? It wasn't there. I wasn't aware of it. The amount of times I've searched for my phone and it was in my pocket. I searched my whole room, my whole house, but it was in my pocket
Yeah.
because that information, or my awareness of that information, was not there, deleted. What's the other two, Jono?
Delete, distort, and generalize.
Okay, distortion. This is my favorite. Okay. I have at times done this and I still do it. I'm trying to be very aware of it, so I do it less. I'll give you an example. Okay. I now have X amount of money in my bank account. It's starting to go to my minimum. I still got money saved everywhere, right? But I'm now entering my minimum in my visible bank account. Immediately, bang, in my head, you're going to go and you're going to be hungry. You're not going to support your family. Everyone's going to look down at you. Like, boom,
Yeah.
all this information starts
You're gonna be
entering.
living in your car, like.
Yeah. What would your friends say? My vanity kicks in, right? How am I going to go here? Can you even put all those past things that I did in the past starts coming back up and start
That's the
distorting.
distortion. That's the distortion. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so that's distortion. The other one's deletion. What's the other one, Jono?
Generalize.
Generalization. Would you like to take this one?
Yeah, it's simple. It's like this always happens.
Mm,
This happens every time I do this. All men are jerks.
mm,
All women are money hungry. All these sort of things that people sort of, people in who've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, for the want of a better term, tend to make up. All salesmen are scammers. All this sort of thing. So it's just these total generalizations, but it brings down the amount of information we need to process. But it ties it. It means what we're doing is basing the current experience on a whole bunch of other experiences that we've had, which aren't necessarily relevant.
That's right.
We've-
And by the way, what Jono said there, the last part, it's called false equivalence.
Yeah,
Yeah. So apples, oranges, boom,
yeah,
they're not the same.
exactly right. And
Yeah.
this with that first one with the map not being the territory,
Yes.
it's so important because this is mindset.
Yes.
Exactly what being able to flex your mindset is all about. Because you're creating this golf ball sized map to deal with basketball sized reality, that's potentially a limiting mindset. So if you can change the components of that map, the golf ball, you can completely change your mindset.
Yes. This is another analogy or another metaphor in that one. I've driven to the city, and the city, when I say city, Sydney city, right? I'm guided by Google Maps. Yeah. And Google Maps is telling me to turn right. But there's a construction there. I cannot turn right. Or the local council decided only last week, and I didn't see it, there's no more right turn.
Mm.
But Google Maps is still telling me to turn right. Either I freeze there and panic, right? Or just keep on going and find another way to get to where I want to go.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's an example, like a metaphoric and also a literal translation of what is the difference between the territory and the map.
Exactly right. That's a very perfect example. Perfect
Yeah.
example.
I love using that panic attack example, by the way, because it's so it's very obvious. Oh, it's not very obvious. Maybe
Exactly
it's
right.
there's another presupposition. This is the idea that people work perfectly.
Yeah, there's a number. We'll go through a number of other ones. I guess we won't spend as much time on them, so they're not as big as I think as the map versus the territory.
That's massive. Yeah, that's massive.
A
Yeah.
massive thing. Okay. The idea there is that people essentially are functioning perfectly in relation to the structure of their behavior. Okay. So even if their behavior is ruining their life, they're actually functioning perfectly because human behavior is structured. Okay. It is entirely structured. Okay. Now, the reason that's a presupposition is because as you extend that, what that essentially means is if you can interrupt the pattern and the structure, you can reorganize it in a more beneficial way. Okay. So people are essentially behaving perfectly in relation to the structure of their behavior. And if you can interrupt it, because behavior is organized, you can reorganize the behavior. It's a reasonably simple one.
Yes. One of my favorite NLP
Yeah.
technique is pattern interrupt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's essentially what it's all about. Essentially in psychotherapy and in hypnotherapy as well. You're identifying and interrupting patterns of behavior so they can reorganize.
Yes.
Essentially
I'll
what.
give an example. My child had a habit of crying before bath time when they were younger. As soon as they hear my alarm, it's bath time, they'll start chucking us skits. Well, they're not skits, but you know what I mean. Yeah. For non-Australians, that means they start behaving crazy, right? What I did is I literally bought a clock, a wall clock, and I turned off my alarm to interrupt that pattern of them crying because they heard my alarm clock.
Great idea. Great
Yeah.
idea.
And because of that, they don't know when to start feeling that anxiety of bath time, right? And what I started doing now is I can see it on the wall, and there were like three, four, so they can't read a clock yet. I start seeing happening now. So I start suggesting the idea of what games they can play in the bath time. So they start welcoming the idea of bath time rather than dreading the idea of bath time. And that's what I did. I interrupted the pattern and I reorganized the pattern.
It's exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. Good example. So I guess there's another couple sort of quickly follow that. Okay. There's that people make the best choices available at a given time. Okay. And so if people have choices, they tend to go with that as a resource and they'll make the best choices. Now, if people don't have choices, they tend to go for compensating behaviors. The way you look at that is someone who is potentially unemployed, doesn't feel they have any options, no
Mm.
future, all this sort of thing. They will go for compensating behaviors, potentially like drugs and crime,
Mm.
compensate for it. And they're the compensating behaviors because they don't appear to have choices. Simple as that. Okay. None of us operate very well without choices and options.
Yeah. Reminds
Uh,
me of that Notorious B.I.G. song. He was blaming that he got picked on by the cops when all he was doing is trying to feed his daughter. He was selling drugs in the
yeah,
corner.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's one way to rationalize. It's one way, and that's part of the rationalization. Okay.
Mm,
No options. Yeah,
mm,
exactly. So simple as that. It's a good example. So
yeah.
next, you've got that people typically have all the resources they need already. Okay, they just don't know that they have them. And the classic example with that would be, say, someone that manages people all day. Someone goes to work and manages people all day, every day.
Mm.
Then they go home, but they can't get their kids to have a bath. Go back to your example there.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
can't get their kids to have a bath. And they're like, I just can't do it. I don't know what the problem is. Well, yeah, you can. You manage people all day. The kids are just people. Okay.
Mm,
It's just a matter of utilizing that skill and reframing it and using it in another way.
yeah.
Okay. But you have the skill. So that's yeah, another one which we don't have to spend too much time on that. It's reasonably obvious.
Yeah. It's a bit challenging because I think that convincing someone that they have all the resources they need is a very hard thing to do.
It
Be-
is.
mm.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Because there's a big mentality, especially in the Western, very materialistic world. We believe as a culture there is lack, right?
Yeah.
As a result of the Judeo-Christian tradition, we also believe in the Savior. Yeah. Not only we have lack, but somebody will come in and save me.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right? And because of those two things, to even get out of your mind and say, you know what? I got all I need to get this done is very, very hard. And
Absolutely.
I've noticed a lot of people cannot wrap their heads around this presupposition.
Oh, look at it. The classic example of it is what I was saying about a person who experiences panic attacks.
Mm,
What a huge resource. Okay, they
mm.
take a situation that they logically know shouldn't really be a big deal, but it sets them off anyway. So what they're doing, they've got this amazing ability to create a scenario in their mind and go with it. Okay. So they've got the resource to do that. And again, if they can change the content of what's going on there, they can create a positive situation in their mind and go for it.
So, guys, the content Jono is talking about is the story we tell each other or
Yeah,
ourselves.
absolutely. Our internal dialogue, essentially that kind of thing.
So that's what we mean by content.
Yeah.
Cool. Next one. Here we go.
Okay. So there's the meaning of communication is the response you get.
Yeah.
Okay. So people sort of say, well, I explain it to them. They just don't get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. You just don't get it.
Yeah. It's not on the receiver.
Yes.
Okay. Communication is going on between the two of you. Okay. There's
Mm,
no point explaining things to people and saying, oh, no, they just don't get what I'm saying. These
mm.
people just don't understand. Back to what we were saying before, to meet people at their bus stop. There's no point trying to be the smartest guy in the room if no one understands what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's no point. Effective communication is how it's received. So you can say all the smartest things in the world, but if everyone's sitting there looking at you dumbfounded, really, really poor communication.
Yeah.
Really poor communication. You might feel really smart, but you're a really poor communicator.
And Exactly, right? And then the Shakespearean poet will just go, "Don't you get me?" And the people from Kalinga, Payao, will just gonna go, "What did he say?" You know
Yeah.
that story of Captain Cook and Benelong? You
I
know the
I do
story?
I can't remember, but I do. I've heard it, but run me through it again.
So apparently, it wasn't, no, it wasn't Captain Cook. It was, I think, Governor Philip or something like it was Philip that did it. He went to Benelong, right, and said, "What is that animal?" Pointing at a kangaroo. And Benelong can't speak English, didn't understand Philip. And Benelong said kangaroo, which means I have no idea what you're talking about.
I've
And,
heard this. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Good
then
story.
Philip went, "All right, that animal is a kangaroo."
There you go. Brilliant. There you go. There you go. Classic ineffective
Yeah.
communication. So,
You would hear this principle or this presupposition. Is this a presupposition?
yeah, it's not a
Yeah, it's
presupposition.
yeah. You will hear this a lot when people, you can hear it in music, you can hear it in love songs, especially breakup songs, right? Saying, "I opened my heart to you, but you just didn't get me,"
Yeah,
right?
there you go. Yeah, there you go.
They did not meet. And
Yeah,
it's for me, because of I've done NLP, and this is a life-changing idea, by the way. I stop blaming people for not getting me,
yeah,
right? And when I communicate, I ask myself, how did I land? How did that message land? Yeah. I get it. It has to land. The other person, the receiver of the message, needs to understand. That's number one. Number two, the second part of this one is not only did they understand, did they really understand? Or did they just say yeah? Or
yeah,
did it match their level of cognition, right? Did it match their level of the ability to respond, responsibility,
right, right.
right? Did it match all of that? Because if it didn't, and you didn't know this principle, this presupposition, you'll just get disappointed and going, "Man, no one gets me."
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
This is one of the most powerful one anyway.
It is.
So
It is. It also leads into the next one, which is super simple.
yeah.
You cannot not communicate. Okay. Even smart communication. Okay. All the non-verbals going on as well. Okay.
Mm.
You are communicating all the time, even if you don't realize you do. Okay. Very simple one there. So
Yeah.
next one's really important. Okay. That every behavior has a positive intent. Okay. Every behavior has a positive intent. Now, when I'm dealing with people who have addictions, for example, no one goes and gets a drug addiction with the intent of doing self-harm. Okay. No one doesn't do that with the intent of doing self-harm. They don't get up in the morning and go, I need to get a very dangerous drug and cause as much damage to myself as possible today. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. Okay.
Mm.
In their mind somewhere, there's a part of their mind, there's a thought process saying this is a genuinely good idea. Okay. And it could
Mm.
be to manage boredom, to manage a level of pain, to mask something they find it too hard to deal with. That's typically what that behavior indicates. And it happens in a lot of other areas of life as well. Okay.
Mm.
If someone's being what appears to be intentionally difficult and defensive, okay,
Mm.
rather than just go, oh, that person's impossible. I don't want to deal with that. Have another think about it. What are they worried about? What are they scared of? What are they scared of?
Mm.
Okay. What is it that what you're perceiving as being difficult is actually achieving for them that seems like a positive thing to them? Very simple one.
I just want to add on to that. I have some friends that are warriors, right? So I've done martial arts most of my life, right? So a lot of martial artists have this persona of a warrior. That's great. On the mat or in the ring.
Leave it in the ring.
Leave it there. Leave it there, right? We're no longer in the medieval world where we're going to a battle. We are, yes, the modern medieval battles are now in the football field. Okay, do it in the football field. right?
And leave it
But
on the field.
and leave it on the field. I got a lot of warrior friends, and I'm doing my inverted commas in my fingers in case you listen to this in an audio way. Some people would just say the wrong thing, or they got bumped, or they said they went to they got served at McDonald's and they didn't get a smile. Somebody cut them off on the
How
road.
dare they do that to
How
me?
dare them, right?
Yeah,
Because they assume a negative behavior or a negative intent, which is the opposite of this principle, by the way.
exactly right.
Yeah. What if that person that cut you off the road is running home because his mother or his wife is about to give birth? So that person that cut him off is probably going through something
Right.
that he has no idea about. Part of my principles in daily living anyway is assume positive intent.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. That's exactly what this is about.
Yeah. So good.
Sometimes you come across people who are jerks, okay?
Yes, of
Not
course. Of course.
always.
Yeah.
That's presupposition. It's not absolute,
Yes.
okay? But typically it's not the case.
Yeah. And like we said in the beginning of this video, you got to be flexible. When you know
Yeah.
that person is no longer just is being an asshole now or being a jerk, well, there you go. Now you got your information.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Now you got your information. Be flexible in your behavior, and now decide what you're going to do about it. And ideally, don't punch them in the face. Just walk away.
It's always best to walk away.
Now, next one.
Really simple one. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
Now
Every result gives you some information. It's how you perceive it, how you take it on board. So really simple thing. No such thing as failure, only feedback. Okay. From there, we get to the fact that, and this is a really important one as well, the mind and body are connected.
Yes.
And what I like to use as an example for this one, it's to do with the eye movement model in NLP, which we won't go through the whole piece, but we'll just talk about a segment of it, okay? The mind and body being connected. So if someone's sad or stressed, where are they looking? They're looking down, okay? They're looking downwards. Down is your emotional frame, okay? That's your emotional frame when you're looking down. Now, you look down because you're sad and stressed, then you stay sad and stressed because you're looking down. Simple thing, if you're sad and stressed, simply one way to deal with that is to simply get your eyes back above the horizon, take a really deep breath, get some oxygen in, you've got your eyes above the horizon. Now emotions down here, up here, you've got more positive creativity and memory, okay? So you get from the emotional space, get up to the horizon, take a deep breath, and you will feel better. Okay? Really simple thing. Really, really simple thing. Okay? Simple
And
one.
I just want to add on that one as well. That's why this is a tip, guys. How can your body help your mindset? Stand straight or sit up straight, shoulders back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very hard to do that when you're doing that position, by the way. Very hard to do that.
And I'll add to that. This is one of the problems with smartphones and social media. The way, okay, here's the thing. When people doom scroll, okay, which people do, they just sit there and doom scroll. The longer you scroll, the further down the rabbit hole you'll go. And what are you doing the whole time you're doing that? This. You're in an emotional space where everything's going to affect you. Put the phone down, get your head up, take a breath.
Yeah. I'm going to add to that as well. So that's my phone, instead of putting it down here, it's actually going to restrain your back, your neck as well. You're also going to collapse.
Yeah.
So when I'm texting someone or replying to someone, or I'm in a video, I put it in eye level. I hold my phone on the left and use my hand to do it, but I'm on an eye level, so I'm looking straight.
Yeah.
Guess what happens? My arm starts getting tired, and that's my indicator. I need to put it away.
Exactly right.
That means, all right, I've done this for too long now. I'll put it away.
Yeah, exactly right. That's a really great technique, actually.
Yeah.
Really simple, great technique. I'm going to use that.
There you go. I think this came from the idea of mood and affect in psychology. Your mood is what you're feeling or what you're going through. Your affect is your facial expressions
Yeah.
or your the manifestations of the mood outside of the body or on the body, right? That's why, did you know, I don't know if you've heard of this, people that get Botox,
Yeah.
they get Botox. So one of the treatments for depression, can you believe this, is Botox on the face
Mm,
because it numbs the sadness face.
mm.
And they couldn't, by the way, no one saw this coming. And then eventually the sadness also was relieved. Notice
Yeah.
I said relieved. It didn't go away, just relieved.
Go away. I just relieved it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can do these exercises or this posture or these principles in everyday life, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got one more to go through here. We're running out of time anyway, but we've got
Yep.
one more of these presuppositions. Now, this one's really, really important as well. That's essentially, if it's possible in the world, it's possible for me. Okay. And what that essentially means is, okay, it's just a simple way of saying that you can essentially get, and this is what you do in NLP, you essentially look at successful people, whether
Yep.
that's personally, sport, business, whatever. You can be successful in a lot of different ways, okay? And model their behavior, okay? And what this presupposition means is if you can model that behavior, you can teach it to someone else. And as long as they don't have some sort of serious learning deficiency, okay, you can teach anyone to take on another model, okay? So that's essentially what it is. What that speaks to is that whole piece that your mindset is not fixed, okay? You can change your mindset anytime you wish, as long as you've got a model to change it to. That comes back to, again, that our behavior is structured and organized. If we can interrupt the pattern, we can reorganize it in a more beneficial way based on these models.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, before we go, by the way, Jono and I are, when we say master, we actually have a master's in NLP, right? We're not just saying we're masters, right? We actually have a master's in NLP. Now, there's a lot of criticisms about NLP, that it's
Okay.
quackery, it's pseudoscience. Yeah, yeah. I've met other NLP people and it's bloody weird, right?
It can be strange. It can seem really,
Yeah,
but it's incredibly effective.
but it's incredibly effective. When not to use NLP, okay? The idea of NLP was introduced to me as conversational hypnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people will learn NLP, the language patterns, after neuro as in mind, and then linguistics is there, words, right? So there was an idea that, oh my God, if I know NLP, I can hypnotize people into doing things I want,
Yeah.
right?
That's the cheap sales technique version that people's perception of what NLP is.
Yeah,
Okay. That's just scratching the very surface of it as a concept. It's such a deep pool once you get into it.
that's it. That's it. NLP was more effective when I used it on myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, to reorganize my mind, my thoughts, my actions, my body, right? To also reorganize my point of view, also reorganize my language,
Yeah.
especially when no one understood me. Oh my God, I went to this victim mentality, this victim mindset.
It's everyone else, not me.
It's the whole world. They're all against me.
Yeah.
And that kind of mindset is prevalent in our world. It's in our poetry, it's in our songs, it's in our movies, right?
Yeah.
To the point we glorify it.
Yeah.
Me against the world, right? Now,
Yeah.
so those are the times when NLP doesn't work. Another misconception of NLP is I only need NLP if I'm broken.
Yeah. Not true.
No. In fact, the most effective NLP people I know are the ones who wants to take their lives and their successes to the next level.
It's about self-improvement. Okay.
Yeah.
who can't improve in some way.
Yeah,
Show
exactly.
me one person who can't improve in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, so that is Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP. Once again, this is Crom Salvatera.
And this is Jono Smith.
Thank you for coming and joining us in this video. If you haven't subscribed already and you found this content useful, well, subscribe, turn on this notification, and we will see you in the next video. Bye for
See you
now.
next week, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.